guys. I'm super excited today for our interview. Her name is Selina Fenech. I have been a massive fan of Selina for a long time, and before I realized she was an author, I've known her for her artwork. I found her artwork on tarot cards and I absolutely loved it. And then it was when I was at a signing 4 years ago that I recognized the art at her stand on her banners and realized, oh my goodness, I love this artist. I see her work online all the time. And she actually writes books as well. Selena is so talented in so many ways. And trust me when I say, when you see her art, when you see her covers, when you see her books or read her books, you will fall in love. And she's just an amazing person all around. And I am so excited to get into her journey, her success, both artist and author. And I'm just so excited for this interview because I absolutely love her and her work. So let's get straight into it, guys. I'm really excited. Well, first of all, thank you so much for joining me today, Selena. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. It's always good to have a good chat about books and things.
Yes, lovely. Well, the first question is actually, I want to know what it's like living in Sydney, in Australia.
It's really nice, actually. I'm a little bit north of Sydney on the Central Coast, and it's great climate. Apart from bushfires, it's not really prone to any natural disasters of any kind, which is, it's good being 2020. That's nice to know. Yeah.
That's amazing. Is it cold there at the moment? Sydney gets quite cold.
Yeah. It is fairly chilly at the moment. We didn't get like the big cold snap they said we were.
Memories Wake was your first book that came out in 2013. What gave you the inspiration to write that book?
A whole bunch of things, really. So I've always been a reader, like a huge fantasy reader ever since I was a little kid. Um, I kind of moved from the fantasy reading and writing that I used to do when I was younger to art more as I grew up. Um, but then I had like big little life-changing stuff in 2008, and then I decided, all right, I'm going to finally write that novel, that story that I always wanted to write. Um, and so it's got like I kind of packed in everything that I wanted to fit into a fantasy novel, like all my favorite stuff. Just, there's Arthurian stuff and Victorian things and just dragons and fairies and everything, like all in the one story. So, yeah.
Because I actually have, so I have signed copies of this. When I first met you, and this will go into the next question, but I've seen your artwork around. You are an internationally recognized, amazing artist.
Thank you.
And I actually had a deck of tarot cards which had your artwork in it. So when I went to
Yeah.
a book signing, I recognized the artwork and I basically fangirled because I thought, no way. I didn't realize she wrote as well. And honestly, your artwork is phenomenal. And so I wanted to know how did you even get into like painting? What was it that drew you into that? And how did you, because you were living off your artwork by 23, which is magnificent. What were the steps to you? Like, how did you do it?
Like getting into the art world was something that, yeah, sort of like I said before, I started out more as a reader and writer when I was a teenager. And I mean, I was always drawing as well, but I never really thought that I could make a living off that. Um, so even in university, I took graphic design instead of anything kind of more fine arts based because I was like, well, at least there's something I can do arty, creative things, but hopefully get a job. Um, but all the while I was doing that, I was sort of still doing all of my fantasy art and things on the side. And that's when, like, this is 2002, 2001, 2002, I started putting my artwork online and things. And it was just such a great online community back then for artwork. And it kind of opened up so many opportunities and things that by the time I'd finished my degree, I worked for 1 year as a graphic designer, and I've been self-employed ever since of my artwork.
That's
So,
amazing. How
yeah.
did you find going from, because obviously you always wanted to write, but did you have a lot of resistance going from painting to writing? Because it's a very different form of expression, like going from visual to put it into paragraph. How did you go with the process?
It is very different. And even now, I find like I need to kind of do the different projects separately. Either I'm working on art or I'm working on writing. I can't kind of do both on the same day or something because I need sort of a separation in my brain to go between them. Yeah, so it was like a huge learning curve as well to get into writing from there after having spent so long focusing on artwork and in sort of growing my, my style and skills with painting. Um, Having just known, read a lot and things like that, it's not quite the same as actually trying to write a book. As you know, it's a big difference actually getting a book finished. So there was a lot I had to learn again.
Do you find, because you obviously do your own artwork for your covers and they're always so beautifully unique, do you do your cover first and get inspiration from that, or do you write the story first and then do the cover?
I do love designing the covers, so a lot of the time I will do the covers first.
Because
I'll have an idea for the story in mind, like I'll know roughly, the characters and things, but I try and get the cover done as early as possible.
I absolutely love your pre-order for the one that's coming out on October 13th, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that one is
So there's
stunning.
Yeah, so that's my newest one. It's Beshadowed, the Beshadowed series, and the first book's called Darkness Unknown. And yeah, I had a lot of fun designing the cover for that. I wanted to try and do something quite different, but hopefully still with enough sort of standard urban fantasy elements that people know what it's going to be about.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that book? Because I'm quite excited for its release. So
I'm quite excited for that one too. It's a story that came to me back when I was writing Memory's Wake. So I've been thinking about this story for 10 years now, waiting for the chance to write it and like waiting to be hopefully skilled enough to tell the story well, because I really love the concept, that the premise of the world and the series and the creatures that are in it. And it just always felt a bit too daunting, like, am I ever going to be able to tell this properly? Is it going to work? So I finally had a go at it, so we'll see. So it's about, so it's an urban fantasy, and it's got a kind of like shifters in it, but they're not really shifters like I think have hopefully ever been done before. There's something a bit different and new. And then it's got some Lovecraftian horror elements and things in it as well. And yeah, a bit of spooky supernatural stuff. And and each story is also going to have like a mystery that has to be solved throughout it as well.
that's cool.
And romance.
Of course.
Yes.
Key element, romance. We love romance.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when you have releases, do you still get, because I just find it so interesting when you have your artwork and then you have your writing as well. Would you say there's like an even amount of pressure, an even amount of nervousness and excitement for when you're releasing or launching something new, or are you more used to one opposed to the other?
I still get terrified every time I release a new book. Novels are, I think, much harder to release than new art. New art, I'll be just like, sketch something or whatever. I'm like, here you go, it's up, it's done, have a look. It doesn't really give me nerves at all with the art. Even the coloring books, like I've done like 30 or 40 of them now, and it's sort of, okay, new coloring book, there you go. It doesn't really give me nerves, but the writing does, because I think there's so much more to a story, and making sure that, hopefully that you've done it well enough that people actually get it and are with you on it, rather than just go, oh, what's this person saying here? This is crazy. Yeah.
So do you do any writing? Sorry, we're going off on a tangent. I'm so
That's
intrigued. Do you have any writing practices, or do you do because obviously we get better in writing like anything the more that we practice. So do you do any say poetry, or do you do short little stories or routines to help you feel more confident in your writing?
I don't do a lot of short form work. I do like to do sprints and things and try and keep myself writing fairly regularly. And I find that helps. I'm also a big course junkie, so I'm always sort of in how-to books and things. So I'm always reading about craft, how to write better, watching videos, doing courses. There's always so much to learn about writing. It feels like it's one of those things that the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. So I think you could just keep learning about it forever. Yeah.
What was it like for you when you first started? Because like I said, I knew your artwork from the tarot cards that I have. What was it like for you when you started having your artwork in heaps of stores. Like those exact same tarot cards are in every bookstore I go to. What was the feeling for you when you started noticing them everywhere you went?
It's pretty amazing. And yeah, it feels like there was a period, especially when I was also manufacturing quite a bit of products and merchandise myself and wholesaling it, that, I could go into almost any new age shop and find something of mine there. And I would always kind of go in and sneak around and look for it and get really excited when I'd see something of mine in there. I still do as well. It's always been, yeah, it's always a highlight when you can find your work on shelves anywhere. Yeah.
Have you had any galleries or anything like that? Like, have you done the whole exhibition?
No,
Or...
not really. I've never really gotten into the gallery or exhibition scene. I've always pretty much gone the online route for almost everything. I've almost always been independently represented and things as well. I do have an agent that manages some licensing for me now, but otherwise, I've never really worked with galleries and things. I was part of one group exhibition once about 20 years ago, and that was it. Yeah,
You, in regards to the agent, and like, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, in
that's right.
regards to the licensing, because you've had a lot of issues in the past of people taking your artwork and selling it on merchandise that clearly isn't theirs.
Yeah.
Is the reason for having the agent now to help you with that, or did you already have tools to better combat against that? Because I imagine it's a lot more easier to basically duplicate your work on their personal merchandise than what it is for a book, because pirating's still real within the writing industry, but yours, I imagine, would be a lot more easier for them to copy and paste, so to speak.
Yeah, they will just grab artworks and put them on things. At the moment, it feels like every week I'm actually reporting, one or two coloring books that are using my artwork on Amazon, where they've just like grabbed them and slapped them together into some dodgy coloring book and have been selling them. The agent doesn't really help with that so much. They're more focused on managing contracts with other companies and things, and getting my artwork out in that way. It's mostly fans that are the ones that help me out with the copyright infringement. They're amazing. Like they'll send me a message or an email or something, and they'll be like, "I spotted this. Is it yours? Is it okay?" Even sometimes they'll check with me, because I think some of my coloring books have been relisted through, because I've got them on Ingram. So I think resellers are selling them on Wish, and so every time someone sees them on Wish, they're like, is this really your coloring book or is this something dodgy? And so yeah, everyone always checks with me first, and sometimes it's not dodgy and sometimes it is, but they're really good with that. I probably wouldn't find half of the stuff if it wasn't for them.
What has been the most surprising thing to you in the writing community or industry?
Uh, just how hard it is to write books. I don't know. I think when I started out, I still had sort of that young writer mentality of, back when you're a teenager and you just sit down and write and you just write whatever comes into your head, and it's fun and it's easy and it is good and creative in that way. But what, kind of comes out might not actually be very good. And back there, you never finish anything because you don't know where they're going. You don't know how to wrap up the story and stuff like that. So I think when I first started writing, I kind of had that in my head still, like, oh, this is going to be so fun and easy. I'm just going to write this story. It'll be great. And then as I started learning really how to get the story to come together and how to finish a story in a good way, I was like, I can't believe how hard this is. It was actually quite a shock to me that it's quite hard. And every new book I go into, I still sort of feel like, oh, maybe it'll be easier this time because, I've written like 12 books now. It's got to be easier, but no, it's still hard. So, yeah.
I strangely find that although we get more used to our writing style and voice, the more books that, well, for me personally, the more books that I write or publish, I find it a lot more challenging because my storylines become a lot more complex and I'm including a lot more elements that I haven't come across before. So it makes it really hard to express that in a way that the reader will understand, or I hope that they understand. So I find it a lot more harder as the years go.
Yeah, I think we challenge ourselves more with every book too, in a way. I think that, and hold ourselves to sort of higher standards for each one that comes out. So I don't think it'll ever be easy. But hopefully the books get better. So
Well,
that's something.
well, with your cover, like that cover, yeah, I'm just thinking of your new release. I'm like, yes, I can't. I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
I wish I could say more about that, but it feels like almost every part of that story is a spoiler because there are so many sort of things in it that I just can't say. I can't. And
How
I wish I
how
could say more.
how long did it take you to write?
That one, the actual writing process, okay, I spent about 6 months in between other projects outlining the story for it and the 3 books that will follow up after it in the series. And then, but once I had it outlined, it took me, okay, so I started writing before COVID and finished writing after COVID. But it was probably only a couple of months on either side with a huge break in the middle when I was homeschooling. So it was probably maybe 3 or 4 months of solid writing time.
Because I guess that's kind of goes into my next question, but in regards to your routine, so I was going to ask how you choose projects at a time, and you've already said you can't do both artwork and writing on the same day. But what does your daily routine look like? And in your writing process, do you have, I know some people create a character portfolio prior, some people just write and see how it goes, or they send it to beta readers or editors. Like what is your personal process? What's your daily routine?
I could talk so much about all of this.
Tell
I'm
me
a huge
more.
time management nerd. I love planning. I love having schedules and things. I have like my whole year planned out in advance about which projects are happening when the deadlines are, how many words or artworks I have to complete per day to meet those deadlines. And then I work within school hours because I've got my daughter at school at the moment. So I've got, just within the school hours, and then I can do whatever I want within then to meet those goals. And because I've been writing and doing the art for so long, and I have a pretty clear idea about what I'm capable of getting done within a day. So I can say, all right, 3,000 words a day, every day for this month during school hours. And then, this project will be done. And then I'll move onto a colouring book or something next. And it'll be like, okay, 2 colouring page designs every day for this month. And then that'll be done. And I just keep moving through my projects like that, sort of setting the goals, breaking it down into the small parts, knocking them off.
That's
And
amazing.
going through.
I guess my next question off that is how do you not beat yourself up when you don't meet? Because I know a lot of authors give themselves unrealistic goals as well. And you're right in the way that we should cut it down into bite-sized goals. So if you don't meet a certain goal, how do you compensate for that? Or how do you make yourself feel that it's okay? Or are you just on point every single time?
In the past, before being a mum, I would be a lot more stressed about those things and I'd work all-nighters and stuff to catch up. In the early years of having my daughter around, I realized I just had to let go of a lot of that and just I'm a lot more chill now. If I don't hit a deadline or something, it's like that's okay because I know I'll get there, not too far out. I'm pretty good these days with hitting the deadlines, but if it's a few days either side or something, that's okay. I don't stress.
So, from a marketing perspective, for both artists and authors, what would you say your 3 top tips are?
Okay, so having goals and projects, sort of like I said before, yeah, just sort of knowing what you want to complete and when you want to complete it so that you can create marketable products of some kind. So as an artist, you could just create a whole bunch of random, bits and pieces, artworks and things. But I think if you want to make it do better, you want to have some kind of project where it's like a series or something that all goes together, or a book, or something that becomes a product once the project is finished. I think that's always really important for artists and creative people to have and to work towards. Also, taking initiative is really good. So a lot of my licensed products that I have, like the figurines and things, I went out and approached the companies that I knew were making them. I'd send them an email with some of my artworks and things in it. I didn't have an agent for some of them earlier on in my career. And I just did it. I may not have gotten in, but if it's one of those things, they say you miss 100% of the shots you don't take or something like that. And I know other people who I would say are much better artists than me, but they weren't doing the same thing. They weren't just getting out there and approaching people. So I think you've got to take initiative on stuff like that to make the opportunities happen.
Yeah.
And just sort of being yourself, you know, being true to what you want to create. I think that, you know, sort of people say, oh, you know, do what you love and it'll work. And I think that's kind of only half the story. I think the rest of it is that if you try to do something that isn't what you love, you won't be able to talk about it sincerely or brand it sincerely. And people are kind of going to know that, like they're going to realize, oh, they're just trying to do this to sell this thing. It's not something that means something to them, so why should it mean something to me? I think you should. I think that's why it's good to follow the things that you really enjoy.
So before, when you were just talking about products, and this is something that I think people don't initially realize at the start of their career, that a book or an art piece is a product. So yes, we put a lot of creativity and a lot of love into it, and it is, you know, people say it's our baby, it is, but people don't understand also it is a business. At what point did you realize straight away that it was a business for you, or was that a learning journey for you as well? Did you get a couple of years in and think, oh, I need to treat this like a business for it to be profitable, and so I can do this consistently forevermore?
I think I got in pretty early with that, with treating it like a business and creating the products and things to go along with that. I had some quite good mentors early on in my art career. I was part of an online forum with Amy Brown and Jessica Galbraith, who were both very successful commercial fairy artists back then. And they, you know, shared a lot of their knowledge and things. And I was very new at the time. And I think that having them, you know, sort of helping me out was a really good way of kind of just jumping into that more commercial kind of career a lot faster than I might have on my own. It also just really helped being doing the graphic design degree as well, because so much of that was about marketing and packaging and advertising and things too. So I think that really helped.
What would you say your biggest highlight of your career has been so far?
A few things, like getting my first novel out, and you know, when you get the paperback for the first time and you hold the paperback of your first novel in your hands, and that's a massive milestone. That is really cool. When colouring book sales started taking off was pretty cool too. Like selling 30,000 copies of a book in a month was like,
Wow.
yeah, okay, that's pretty cool. I like that.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah. That was when it really went crazy for a while, the adult colouring book craze. So that was a highlight as well.
Was that during like the hype when the colouring in books first started? Okay, that's amazing. Yeah. What novel are you working on at the moment?
I'm actually working on an urban fantasy Rumpelstiltskin retelling at the moment.
Oh, I love that.
I should have been, and I really should have been working on the next Beshadowed book for that series, but I kind of on a whim I saw an anthology, a box set group that was starting up, and they were taking applications, and it looked like a really good opportunity. And I was like, just on a whim, I applied for it, and I got in. So I'm one of 10 authors in this box set, and now I have to write a story for it. It's got to be like a minimum of 40,000 words, and it's due in November. So I'm working on that.
Is this your first anthology?
I've been part of a couple of box sets where I've just used previously written works. I think Memories Wake's been in 2 different box sets over the time, but this will be the first kind of bigger deal anthology, I suppose. Yeah.
This is my favorite question to always ask. What is your largest goal? What is the dream that you're chasing for your career?
I really want to have one of my story worlds become like a big deal. Like I want it to be something that resonates with readers so much that it kind of takes on a life of its own in fandom. You know, that's my dream, is to have something that people go, we love this world out of it, and we're going to write our own fan fiction, and we're going to like talk about it and do all of these things. So yeah, that's my dream.
So you're thinking like Mortal Instruments, Harry Potter, shit, like Yeah.
Yeah, like something, I mean, even not quite of that scale, even like, your worst witches and things like that, which, they're out there and, they're not like the big movie franchises, but there's still something that's become like this beloved series that's what I love.
That's amazing. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited. So I always have a couple of little quirky questions at the end. And my first one is, if you could be any supernatural creature, what would it be and why?
I've always loved mermaids, but I probably don't actually want to be one because the ocean is terrifying. And I think that it would be really hard to live in it as a mermaid. I think that when I was a teenager, I used to really want to be a were-tiger. And this was like back before like shifters, I think, were a thing so much. It was, I think I saw it in like a Dungeons and Dragons book or something. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. I'd do that. That feels safer, being the top of the food chain sort of too than being a mermaid. Yeah.
That's a well thought out answer as well. I love that. I love
I
that.
often think about this sort of thing though. Like I'm always thinking about, supernatural creatures and how they live and stuff like that. So
I love it.
yeah.
So then, what would be your least favorite supernatural creature and why?
I don't really know. Like I like a lot of them. I mean, even the sort of the creepier ones or the weird ones, I really like most. I probably not a huge fan of leprechauns. Like there's
Okay.
something kind of there's something a bit maybe kind of commercialized in like a creepy kind of way about them that sort of yeah, I just don't like their little green hats and stuff. There's something I don't like. Yeah.
I've never actually thought about the leprechaun, but when you put it like that, I'm like, yeah, they are kind of creepy.
Yeah. Yeah, I could skip leprechauns.
What's your life motto?
Just do it.
Oh, I
It's
like that.
something that even like as like a teenager and stuff, I was always very shy. So anytime there was like something that I was supposed to do or should do, even social stuff like go to this party or something, and then I'd start making excuses like, oh, I don't, maybe I won't go. And like I always tell myself, just do it. And then since then, there's been the Shia LaBeouf video. Have you seen that where he's like, just do it?
No,
You'll have to look it up. It's
I will.
amazing.
You're so passionate. I want to see it now.
No, that's what he does in it. He's like, he does all these weird things. He's like, do it, just do it. So you'll watch it and then you'll see I'm doing a very good impression. So
I feel like I've seen the ad already. This is an endorsement like I've never seen before.
it's a great thing to watch if you are feeling like a little bit, you're not really wanting to move ahead with something, you're not very motivated. You watch that, you'll be motivated. It's, just the right level of crazy.
What's the most unique gift you've ever received?
Okay, so when my husband and I got married, we had knights joust at our wedding. And we didn't know that, because we hired them to come along and do that. But we didn't know that part of that was that they gifted us an engraved sword as at the end of it. And it was, yeah, that was a very cool gift to receive.
That is so cool. I have
Yeah.
a question actually. Well, I've met your husband, and
Yeah.
he was going into the audiobook industry, wasn't he? Is he
He is.
is he still doing that?
Yeah, they are. They're actually doing a heap of books for Penguin Random House at the moment.
Wow.
So they're doing all of the editing and things for those now.
Did
So that
was the reason why he came to the dark side, to the author side, but was that
yeah.
influenced because you had started writing, or was that something that he'd always wanted to do?
He's a very big reader and always is telling me that he's going to write a book soon as well, but he's just so busy with his TV and film stuff. But I think that, yeah, he sort of realized that audiobooks, because I started doing a couple of audiobooks through ACX and I was telling him about the process and he's like, we could do that for you. Oh, okay. Like it's all very similar work with the editing and things that they do for video. So yeah, they decided that they'd start working on that and did a few sample ones and things, and now they're doing a lot of work for Penguin, and yeah, it's going on.
I think
This is
it is a
Buttercup.
lot more important in any way that you can to support local when you can, because ACX is great and it's there, but if you can go local, do it, because it adds more of a personal touch instead of the mass corporate industry. I will go off that rant, but I was just like,
No, I can understand that. The only problem is that it's hard to find good US accents in Australia for recording. And a lot of authors, they want to have, like, they've kind of written for the US market, even though they're Australian. So that's one challenge that they've hit. Although a lot of the books and things they're working on at the moment have Australian accents in them anyway, so that's all right. But they're recording this week for my Empath Chronicles series that I did a Kickstarter to fund the audiobook for.
and what is your favorite color and why?
That's a hard question for an artist. I love lots of colors. I actually quite like really neutral colors. I like grays and browns and pinks, and grey browny pinks, things like that. So yeah, flesh tones and stuff like that. Those are all my favorites.
Amazing. Well, that's all the questions I have. Do you have anything else that you want to add, or do you want to talk about things that you have coming up? Anything? The floor is yours.
No, that was a great talk about everything that I've been doing, and the Beshadowed series that's coming up. That's a big one that I'm excited for. But like I said, I feel like I can't say a lot about it, so it's going to be very hard to market.
It's fine. It's fine. I'll just cry until it comes out next month, and then I'll grab my copy. It's fine.
Well, I'm hoping that once it comes out, and then there'll be some reviews, and people will start talking about it, and it'll be spoiled anyway, and then I can start saying whatever I want about it.
You'll have a completely separate video going, okay, so here's the beans. This is what's happening.
That's it.
I love it. Well, I really enjoyed that. Thank you for hopping on. It was heaps of fun.
Thank you. It was great fun.
It was. Well, I'm going to love you and leave you then, so I'm going to say goodbye, but have a good day.
You too. Thank you so much for having me.